It's really easy to just find yourself pulled into future. It's almost impossible to see your path when you're not here. Take a gauge, watch your mind for 5 minutes, and look at how often you're in your past or your future. What you're basically broadcasting with your energy is, I'm not okay. And even if you're not okay where you are, you want to be present so that you could see the possibilities and the opportunities in each moment rather than being focused in your past and your future. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Reflection Connection podcast. I'm your host, Vince Jameson. So today is episode 17, and I'm entitling it, I Am in This Moment That I Am. And I want to share a little bit. I have been working out a lot of different changes for myself personally. There are a lot of aspects and opportunities and changes and major decisions that are on the table for me in both my personal as well as professional life. And I was tuning in today and actually doing a little channeling, which I don't do as often anymore. But I wanted to share because I used to channel quite a bit, and that was part of my entry into this. And now what's happened is my personal intuition has increased quite a bit. But I wanted to share because the message that keeps on coming up for me, and it came up again today, and it came up with almost a little bit of a sarcasm. There's almost a ridiculousness in the idea of asking for what's the best path. What is the best direction? What is the way? What is the way for me? I know that we have certain agreements in this life and certain aspects to our personality or to certain things that we've come to do or agreed to do, but there's a much larger aspect of our daily life that is really up to us. And when you're asking those questions, which I have repeatedly, and as I shared, I just did earlier today, it's in a sense wanting to give up, or even you could look at it positively and say maybe surrender your power or surrender your control, right? But there's also what you're asking is, I want to know the path that is laid out that has the least amounts of obstacles, the most amount of happiness, where everything will basically go perfect according to what I like, and the least amount of anything that I don't like. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It lines up with our basic motivations. But in that, you're giving up a lot of choice, and you're giving up a lot of personal power, and you're giving up a lot of the adventure that you came to live. And more often than not, there are not right answers, or one answer, or one path, or one right path. It's what you choose. And then what you choose opens up different results. And out of those results, you would choose again, and you start making your way, and you can navigate that. But there's not one way. And I think that especially maybe in today's climate, where the world can feel a little chaotic, and even in the past and years gone by, I think still most people have had that feeling of just maybe a lack of clarity, right? Or vice versa, several ideas that are competing with each other in a sense. In that regard, what I've learned is we often can see opportunities or paths that we would like to take all at once, but they don't need to be taken all at once, and they don't need to be figured out. Sometimes having a glimpse is almost like looking at a plant catalog rather than planting the actual seed, right? So this is the possibilities and which one really speaks to you. And then you can choose to plant that seed and allow it to grow and go along that path. But sometimes you can see something for yourself that's really ideally suited for a later time. And many times I've experienced that there are in between necessary adventures or learning experiences that need to happen, which then create the circumstance for the fertile ground of that adventure or that choice or that seed, if you will, following the analogy. And so I find it though really common, and I was even thinking of consulting an astrologer, which I know a very big one who's very well known, and I've spoken with him before, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's an interesting aspect too, because this particular one doesn't like to go too much into the future, but offers more guidance. And yet, when someone gives you a forecast, let's say, or the potentiality of a future event, that can cause a reaction in you where the actual receiving of that information can then shift the dynamics with which you're choosing to go down your own path, you know? So even the most profoundly intuitive person, there's nothing set in stone. It's not like there are all of these grooves and there's no variation from it. You're constantly making deviations. There are 1,000 different futures, 1,000,000 different futures possible. There are likely outcomes given your behavior, your makeup, and also the path that you're already heading on. But you can switch gears on a dime if you want to, and if you choose to. And so, one of the things with that ties into the original part of the conversation is there's an aspect in that too of giving away power, of saying almost like this emanation of like, I'm lost and I'm helpless. You guide me, right? And of course, I'm exaggerating the notion, and I'm trying to make a point. I think that sometimes wise advice can be really beneficial, and in certain circumstances, it might be useful to know your psychological makeup as well as your astrological makeup and see what maybe you're best suited for. But there is a fine line, as I often say, nuance is everything, and there's a nuance to it. And I would just say, look at where you're coming from, and I'll speak for myself. I didn't move ahead with it because not that there was anything wrong with it, and I might move ahead with it in the future. But in the moment when I was thinking of doing it, I was looking for, there was an aspect that I was clear about of handing over my power. There was an aspect of like, somebody just tell me what to do here, right? And there's also the idea too of just choose. There's also the idea of like, make a choice and then make it right. Make a choice and you could always change your mind as you're going down that path. You can always start a job or make a move and then decide either you don't like it or sometimes have the experience and use it as a bounce towards something else. There have been so many times in my life where I've wanted to or have made physical moves to places and then found like an adjacent town or an adjacent area that I had no knowledge of previously that is actually much more in line with what I wanted, right? But I wouldn't have known that unless I had the experience. And so, yeah, it's very normal, I think, right now with a lot of the things that are going on in the world, for us to want some security and some kind of like comfort in the knowledge of just what to do and where it is and let me know that I'm on the right path, right? But what I chose to do and what I got on to share today is it's something that I've spoken about so many times on here, but I'm doing it more hardcore. I am anchoring in the moment really, really strong. So the mantra that came to my mind, when I was meditating was, I am in this moment that I am. I am in this moment that I am. I am fully in this moment that I am. I am in this moment that I am. And allowing for the physical embodiment to be tactically, so if you can tactically feel for the internal aspect of your body, to feel rooted in your physical body, right? Feel the seat underneath your ass. Feel the warmth in your hands. Feel the aliveness. Feel your hands and your feet at the same time. Be anchored in your body. But then also be anchored in this moment and know that this is the moment that you belong in, whether the circumstances or the environment are in line with your ideal or not. This is still where you are, and so it has purpose. Now, it might be nothing more than to get to that point of acceptance so that you can make a bounce, or it might be that fully being here allows you to see the opportunities that are here in order to make a bounce or in order to make this better, or both, right? Because even if you're in crisis, even if where you are is not safe, truly, even if you find yourself in a part of the world right now, which there are many that are experiencing quite a lot of upset, and I don't have to tell you, the best place that you can be is just focused in your core, in yourself, so that you can be fully aware of the possibilities and the options that you do have and the intuitive guidance that comes from within, that comes from the moment. When you're projected so far out, or even a little bit into the future, of either fear or, in my case, most recently, was just desire and want. It was moving towards certain things, but it started to become an attachment that was making where I am feel invalid. And although I want to move to those places or move in that direction, I need to be here where I am in order to get there properly. And that's the big difference. And again, getting back to the scenario previous, even if you find yourself in a crisis point, being in the fear or the concern or the past experience of like that repeating again, or something that you heard repeating, or something that you came across happening, right? Or the future projection, it's not where your power is. And the best decision making that you can do is when you're calm and you're centered and you're connected to all that you are. And so, whether this is a big situation for you or just a little day to day thing of just, you know what, my job sucks, and or my relationship sucks, or I'm just not satisfied with this place and I want to be XYZ, right? Be here, be in that messiness in a sense, but don't define it as that. Define it as, this is where I am. I am here. I am in this moment that I am. I am in this moment that I am. And then just be here and feel here and allow everything to calm down. Allow the mind to calm down. Allow the fight or flight to calm down. Allow the upset to calm down. Allow the reaction of the social media post that you saw, or posts, because there are so many, to just calm down. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to act, or it doesn't mean that you're not going to make a choice, or it doesn't mean that you're going to be passive. It means that you're just going to fully embody here and then respond and then choose and then be and then feel into it. What's next? There's also the aspect too, which Bashar and anyone who's following this knows that I do resonate highly with his teachings, speaks about, which is following your excitement, or in this moment, out of your most even mundane choices, right? Let's say you're in your house and you're working, or you're, I don't know, wherever you are. Out of those choices, and it could be getting up and going for a walk for 5 minutes. It could be taking a break and having a meal. It could be making some phone calls so that you know that you need to do, so that you just get through it and then you can get beyond it. And having a conversation that needs to be had, or taking a break and centering before having a conversation that needs to be had. Whatever it is that feels like a pull a little more than anything else, that feels like attractive a little more than anything else, go with that. I've heard this for years, and I know the power of it, but what I heard recently in it was, when you are constantly doing that from moment to moment to moment, you're following your internal guidance. But the thing that goes along with that, which honestly I got stuck on numerous times, which is completely letting go of all expectations of how it were to work out, or what the outcome is. 100% completely letting that go. When I'm choosing something or I'm doing something, I do generally have an expectation towards an outcome. That's why I choose something. It's kind of like making a goal, right? And you're breaking down the steps. So if you're working on those steps, it's because you have that expectation of getting there. But when you're working that way, it pulls you out of the center, it pulls you out of the presence and puts you into the future. So now you're in the future, you're not seeing, you're not being, you're not connected to fully what the present moment is offering you. And so by working that way, you're fully letting go of the past. You're fully letting go of the expectations of the future. And you're in the perpetual now, which is your most connected state. It is actually your most powerful. It's your most aware. I've lived this for a short period. And if I can wave a wand and choose any way, or have anything, that's the first thing that I would ask for. I had an experience years ago, which I shared on here, which was about 6 hours of this. And it was a 100% complete locked in experience, with not a single thought. And anything and everything that I needed to know, I knew in the moment that it came up. And I was just overwhelmed with like a blissfulness. And yet I was so completely aware. And I was just walking around New York City, where I lived. And yeah, it's I know that, and I've known that, as I share, that was 20 something, about 20 years ago. So I've known that for 20 something years, and yet it's still the seduction of the past and the future, tracing those feelings or those worries or those desires, even in a positive context. It's very alluring. It's very slippery and even addictive sometimes. So getting back to your present moment, and yeah, I invite everyone to do this. So if you're resonating with it, try on the mantra, I am in this moment that I am. I am in this moment that I am. I am in this moment that I am. And you can add to it or adjust it as you wish. And allow yourself to be fully in this moment for today, for the next couple of days. Completely let go of goals, completely let go of figuring out anything mentally, because you're going to be figuring it out from your subconscious, your drives, your internal. You're not your most powerful place. completely let go of that for a while and completely let go of the past, of all those ways that you were and who you are and how you've been and what you've liked and what you've not liked and whatever, and just be here. Watch the time slow down. Sometimes that sucks because if you're in a place where you don't want to be and time slows down, it's like, more time. I want to distract myself from this, but it also can perpetuate it. So be here fully. And I am in this moment that I am. And in this moment that I am, what's appealing to me? What is the next what is the next most exciting or attractive thing that I can do in this second? Not a big picture thing, in this moment. What is the next best thing for me to do? And just go with that and work with that and stay with that and come back to that and come back to the embodiment in your body, come back to the embodiment of your presence, the embodiment of your physicality. So this is what I'm working on. Join me in this next week and let's see how it goes. I'll report back next week. But anyway, I hope that this was helpful. And as always, I am always here reminding you of all that you already are and all that you are already connected to. Until next time.